We got into more racy and bombshell text messages, hotel nights, even a video that all further examines the relationship between alleged victim Jane and criminal defendant Sean Diddy Combs. Law and Crime's in-court reporter Elizabeth Milner is back with us about what happened in court today as Jane was once again questioned by Diddy's defense attorney. Alleged victim 2 in the criminal case of Sean Diddy Combs, Jane back on the stand, back being cross-examined by defense counsel Tenny Garagos. Important day for the defense because after all, Jane, who was testifying using a pseudonym, explained that she was essentially pressured into these hotel nights with Diddy, her lover, for several years. These sexual episodes with other men, sex workers, in front of Diddy for his pleasure. But then on cross-examination, they seem to be trying to suggest this was consensual, that she was a willing participant, that he isn't this nefarious sex trafficker as portrayed by the prosecution, that there was no force, fraud, or coercion.
Have you ever heard a story so compelling that just a few lines in, you found yourself sitting upright, dropping everything, and needing to hear how it ends? The case involving Sean Diddy Combs and the explosive testimony of an anonymous woman, let's call her Jane, is exactly that kind of story. This isn't just some ordinary romantic entanglement. What was revealed in the recent trial has exposed a dark, hidden world of power, desire, and manipulation that no one expected from a figure long seen as an icon in the American entertainment industry. This story isn't just about sex. It's a series of carefully orchestrated hotel nights, involving a cast of characters ranging from escorts to hand-picked entertainers, all wrapped around bizarre role-playing scenarios laid out in text messages. What's even more shocking is that during the trial, intimate conversations, sensitive videos, and text exchanges between Diddy and Jane were brought into the public eye, causing shockwaves not just among fans, but throughout legal circles and media outlets as well. And if you think this is just another celebrity sex scandal, think again. Behind it all lies a story of power, legal battles, long-term psychological trauma, and a high-stakes clash between truth and the polished image Hollywood desperately tries to maintain. This isn't just news. This is a real-life drama series unfolding before our eyes. And you're in the right place to uncover the whole thing. To fully grasp the weight of this story, we first need to understand the two central figures. One, a global music icon. The other, an anonymous woman who has become the focal point of courtroom testimony. Sean Diddy Combs is not just a rapper or a music producer. He embodies an entire era of American hip-hop, having helped launch the careers of major artists like Notorious B.I.G. and Mary J. Blige. He's also a fashion icon, media mogul, and multi-industry entrepreneur. With a net worth estimated in the hundreds of millions, Diddy has been romantically linked to high-profile women like Jennifer Lopez, Cassie, and Kim Porter. He's known for masterfully controlling his image, building his brand, and somehow always maintaining his cool, even during smaller scandals over the years. However, this time, that image is facing serious damage thanks to the highly detailed testimony from Jane. Her identity is legally protected, but her statements have been strong enough to command attention from both the press and the public. Jane was once Diddy's lover, or possibly more of an unofficial partner, but according to her, the relationship was far more complicated than it seemed. She describes it as a long series of emotional twists, seduction, and psychological control. Jane characterizes their dynamic as a kind of invisible contract, where she wasn't just a girlfriend, but also a party organizer and the lead actress in scenarios Diddy wanted to play out. What stands out is that Jane isn't the first woman to speak out about Diddy in the past year. There have been previous allegations of abusive behavior in past relationships, but most were settled quietly. This time though, the testimony isn't just storytelling, it's a full breakdown of events presented under legal scrutiny, supported by a trove of evidence. That's what makes this case so different. This isn't a case of emotional accusations. This is a reconstructed timeline built from text messages, hotel booking records, messages between Jane and various entertainers, and even video clips that had never been shown before. That's why all of Hollywood now has its eyes locked on the courtroom, because the image of the hip-hop king might just be falling apart, piece by piece. When you hear the phrase "freak off," it might bring to mind some kind of wild party, but what's been described in court goes far beyond that. Jane spoke of hotel nights that lasted for hours, sometimes days, where she wasn't just participating, she was orchestrating the entire thing. She outlined a recurring model of these events, choosing a location, selecting a list of entertainers, messaging prostitutes, and even assigning roles and scenarios for the night. Sometimes these events would take place right after one of Diddy's concerts, as a personal reward for both of them. One such event lasted 3 straight days.
3 days inside a luxury hotel suite, set up like a closet film set.
According to Jane's testimony, she was once tasked with inviting an entertainer nicknamed Leo, whom she often referred to as the Italian. Leo wasn't a stranger. He had actually appeared in one of Diddy's music videos and also had a personal relationship with Jane. It was the fusion of business, sex, and power that created this blurry atmosphere. What was consensual, what was submissive, and when did control become absolute? In one message presented in court, Diddy wrote to Jane, "Surprise me with a freak-off tomorrow night. Bring Leo if he's free." In another, he said, "I want tomorrow to be just for me. But if you're down, we can try something new." The affectionate tone, the seductive language, and the optional nature of the requests made these messages key pieces of evidence. Were these two consenting adults making a deal, or was Jane being subtly manipulated through emotional leverage? Jane doesn't deny that she was drawn to Diddy's power and glamour. Who wouldn't be attracted to private parties, top-shelf champagne, and entertainers treated like celebrities? But over time, she began to feel like she was just the host of events that she no longer truly controlled. In one revealing detail, during a night when Jane said she wasn't in the mood and didn't want to go beyond her limits, Diddy simply texted, "Then surprise me some other way." These kinds of replies, while not overtly forceful, carried an unspoken pressure. A set of expectations from someone in power that made the other person feel obligated not to disappoint. That's a central argument in the prosecution's case, that this wasn't an equal relationship, but one shaped by power imbalance and psychological coercion. All the conversations, videos, and evidence aren't just meant to clarify the nature of these freak-offs. They paint a world where desire and status become inseparable, creating a space where the lines between consent and coercion blur over time. At the heart of this trial, and the question that has everyone from the media to the general public buzzing, is this: was Jane truly a coerced victim, or was she a willing partner who consented to everything that happened? And here's the thing, it's not a simple question to answer. Diddy's defense team has leaned heavily on the idea that Jane was fully in control of the relationship. They've presented a stream of text messages, private chats, hotel night schedules, many of which were organized directly by Jane herself. They even shared her conversations with entertainers, where she wasn't just checking availability but seemed warm, casual, and in command, like she was running a private show for Diddy. One message cited by the defense showed Jane texting someone, "Leo's on for tomorrow.
Diddy wants the whole vibe. I'm prepping a few extra for the night. Gotta keep it fresh."
The tone suggests more than just participation. It suggests she was the creative director, even eager to surprise and please Diddy with something new. But in the prosecution's rebuttal, they focused intensely on the imbalance of power. They didn't deny Jane had been proactive at times, had laughed, had even said, "I love you." But they posed a deeper question. When you're in a relationship where the other person holds overwhelming financial, social, and emotional power, do you really have a free choice? When someone like Diddy makes a suggestion, can you realistically say no without consequence? What struck a nerve were the conflicting texts Jane had sent, where affection was mixed with unease. In one, she wrote, "I know what you want, but I'm not feeling it tonight. I'm scared if I say no, you'll get mad." These kinds of messages may sound soft on the surface, but they pointed to a real fear, not of physical violence, but of being frozen out, dropped, or losing everything Diddy had provided. This trial has become more than just about right or wrong. It's a case study in how control works in lopsided relationships, where affection, dependency, expectations, and routine form a cycle that's incredibly hard to escape from, even if the person inside believes they're the one steering the wheel. There's also a legal debate brewing underneath it all. In Hollywood, many relationships are transactional, fame for affection, money for image. But when those blurry arrangements get entangled with real emotional bonds, the fallout can be brutal. And the Diddy-Jane saga is turning into a prime example of that very dynamic. As if the courtroom drama weren't already intense, things took an unexpected twist, one that had nothing to do with Diddy or Jane directly. It involved a silent figure in the background, juror number 6. Rumors about this juror began swirling mid-trial, when Diddy's legal team asked the court to investigate a concern regarding honesty during jury selection. There were whispers that this juror might have hidden or failed to disclose something from their past, something serious enough to potentially compromise the fairness of the entire trial. But here's the strange part: the defense didn't want this juror removed. In fact, they seemed oddly protective of him, which raised even more eyebrows. Reporters present in the courtroom noted that both sides submitted sealed letters to the judge. The contents were kept strictly confidential, but it was clear that the issue was serious enough for the judge to promise a ruling by the end of the week. Some legal analysts speculated that this could be a classic case of a Batson challenge, where the prosecution wants to strike a juror of color, while the defense argues that the attempt is racially biased. During a live commentary segment hosted by Law and Crime on YouTube, several legal experts openly questioned whether there might be some backroom influence at play, trying to keep juror number 6 on the panel, possibly because he was favorable to the defense. And in a high-profile trial like this one, even a single biased juror could tip the entire outcome. The atmosphere inside the courtroom grew even more surreal. Some members of the jury were seen whispering to each other during breaks, while juror number 6, the man at the center of speculation, remained calm, even emotionless. One reporter noted, his expression didn't change the whole day. It's like he knows something no one else does. All of this added another layer of intrigue to a case that already felt more like a true crime miniseries than a routine legal proceeding. Every glance, every nod, every bit of eye contact between attorneys and jurors became potential viral content for social media by nightfall. This led many to ask, is this trial truly being guided by justice, or by public opinion, politics, and celebrity image management? And if a verdict can be swayed by something as small as one questionable juror, who really holds the power in the courtroom? To many, Sean Diddy Combs is a nostalgic figure from an entire generation. He's not just a rapper or producer, but a symbol of black excellence in American entertainment, a man who rose from nothing to build the Bad Boy Records empire, who threw legendary parties in New York, and who always made Forbes' list of most influential people. But behind that glittering image is a long trail of controversy, whispers, and question marks that the public has either forgotten or chosen to ignore. This isn't Diddy's first brush with scandal. Back in 1999, he was arrested alongside then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez after a nightclub shooting at Club New York. He was eventually acquitted, but the event deeply tarnished his public persona for years. Later, his relationship with singer and model Cassie became a topic of concern when rumors emerged that he allegedly controlled her to the point where she wasn't even allowed to take a photo with anyone without permission. Another striking detail, in 2023, Cassie filed a surprise lawsuit against Diddy, accusing him of abuse and violence over several years. The case was settled quietly just days later, prompting many to wonder, was there something so explosive that it had to be buried before it ever reached the public?
There was a talk about Cassie's lawsuit. So it came up during the course already where she had basically had texted Sean Combs that when Cassie filed her lawsuit in November of 2023, she's reading the pages and she basically said, this is what I've been going through. It's almost like she discovered her own, which I think she said was trauma. What happened today? What was she questioned about Cassie's lawsuit?
Yeah, so that happened kind of towards the end of court today where the defense was kind of like, well, Cassie's lawsuit came out, but you and Diddy weren't even together around this time period, that you and Diddy broke up a few weeks earlier because Diddy was with another woman in London and not with you. And so the defense asked Jane, did Mr. Combs talk to you about Cassie and that Cassie was one of his greatest loves? And Jane responded yes, and that Gina tormented that relationship, which is kind of an interesting point for the defense to bring up because that was something that Cassie said, that was something that Carrie said. I think even at points that's something that Mia and Deontay even said about Gina too, and just that she had allegedly torpedoed Cassie and Diddy's relationship, but I also think it's interesting that Diddy was seeing Gina in different aspects up until 2023, so there's kind of a little both with that, but that Jane was explaining under cross about Cassie's lawsuit that she was following the lawsuit pretty closely on social media, and then there was a sidebar, and then the jury was dismissed for the end of the day. So I think where the defense might pick up tomorrow is kind of like, okay, well, you say you were traumatized and you were triggered by Cassie's lawsuit, but you still did hotel nights even after you two got back together, and you continued to do these hotel nights up until the time period where then he was arrested. I think her last one was August of 2024, and so they ended for the day as far as really kind of teasing up Cassie's lawsuit. So I assume once we get back to court tomorrow, that's where they'll pick up, and then we'll really kind of get into what happened between November of 2023 up until September of 2024 when Diddy was ultimately arrested.
Yeah, and I know that their relationship ended just before his arrest. Okay, Elizabeth, before we wrap things up, we kind of got a sense of who the prosecution is going to call next, also maybe who they're not going to call, and when they plan to wrap up their case. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, so a lot of the big questions are, when is the prosecution going to rest? When are we going to see the defense's case? But according to the prosecution, they're like, okay, the earliest that we could possibly rest is Wednesday of next week, and the latest we could rest is by Friday of next week. So that's really pretty soon. And so I was thinking, okay, there has to be a few more people that we're going to hear from. I was thinking maybe we would hear from Damian Butler, one of the security guards, or maybe Christina Coram, but those names weren't the ones that we heard about today when the prosecution was talking about the next few witnesses that they plan to call. But some of those witnesses included Andre Lamont, a person named Jonathan. Not sure if that's the exact same Jonathan that Jane referenced in her testimony as being one of Diddy's assistants. And then Anaya Sanker. And as far as Anaya Sanker's role in her testimony for the government, we do know that she's going to be one of the first summary witnesses, kind of to sum up just the different charts that they have. It's probably in relation to transportation to engage in prostitution, probably just other summary exhibits to show to the jury to kind of piece all those puzzle pieces together and really kind of show them. And so that's what we know now. And then the defense case will happen. And the defense was saying, okay, depending on who the prosecution is cutting from their witness list, then we'll see kind of where our witness list is kind of looking like and how long that duration is happening. But the defense and even the government seem pretty positive and optimistic that the case will still wrap at least by July 4th. And so they seem from both sides that they're on track to end at the same time period that they planned on ending from the start of the trial.
Many in the entertainment industry have long hinted at the existence of Diddy's so-called private parties. These were gatherings where every guest reportedly had to sign non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, phones were confiscated, and security guards were stationed outside the doors. Entertainers, influencers, and even a few political figures were rumored to have attended. It was a world completely inaccessible to the average person, and if you were ever allowed in, you were never allowed to speak of it again. That's what's fueling growing suspicion that the relationship between Diddy and Jane wasn't just an unhealthy romance, but possibly the visible tip of a much larger iceberg, one where control, manipulation, and exploitation were dressed up as glamour and exclusivity. And now that these shadows are being pulled into the light, the empire Diddy spent decades building is at risk of collapsing, not just in terms of image, but also legally and financially. Even Hollywood's media machine is starting to fracture under the weight of this case. Some of Diddy's previously close allies, like Usher, Mary J. Blige, and Pharrell, artists who had publicly collaborated with or supported him in the past, are all noticeably silent. No statements.
No défense.
No public shows of support. And in an industry where silence can be louder than words, their quiet withdrawal speaks volumes. At this point, the case is no longer a private dispute between two people. It has evolved into a battle between a long-standing power figure and a woman brave enough to break the cycle of silence. And whatever the final verdict may be, one thing is certain: it will permanently alter how the public views Diddy, as a beloved legend, or as the dark truth behind the shiny suit. After more than 2 decades at the top of the fame ladder, Sean Diddy Combs now faces the biggest crisis of his career, and possibly his life. What began as a few vague social media accusations and mysterious text messages has grown into a full-scale courtroom reckoning, where every glance, every word, and every minute detail could be used as evidence against him. As for Jane, a fictional name for a very real person, she is no longer just a witness. She has become a symbol for countless others who've kept quiet. Her testimony has shaken the public not just for its content, but because it speaks a rare truth few dare to say aloud: psychological abuse, invisible control, and the steep cost of loving someone who holds too much power. In a broader sense, this trial is also a clear sign of cultural change within Hollywood. The era when entertainment moguls could control the narrative behind the scenes, manipulate the media, and bury the truth is no longer as airtight as it once was. In recent years, we've seen giants like Harvey Weinstein and R. Kelly fall from grace. And now, if Jane's story holds up in court, Diddy may be the next powerful name to join that list. But ultimately, no one, not even the court, can decide for you what to believe. Do you see Jane as a wounded woman, bravely calling out the most powerful man in her life? Or as someone who had a complicated past relationship and is now telling the story from a new angle, perhaps in the name of justice, or perhaps for other reasons? And what about Diddy? Is he a manipulative abuser hiding in plain sight, or just the latest victim of cancel culture in the age of viral outrage? No one can answer that for you, not yet. But you can share your thoughts.
Leave a comment below. Do you believe Jane is telling the truth?
Or do you think she's retelling events in a way that serves her narrative? Is Diddy really the man he's always claimed to be? Or is it time we rethink everything we've accepted simply because it came wrapped in celebrity gloss? If this story has made you stop and think, even for a moment, please hit the like button to help it reach more people. Subscribe to this channel if you want to follow more hot, raw, and hidden stories behind the faces of popular culture. And don't forget to ring the bell, because we'll be following this trial closely, along with other explosive cases currently shaking up Hollywood. This isn't just another news video. This is where we dissect the truth, confront uncomfortable ethics, and stare straight into the darkness behind some of the world's most celebrated icons. We'll see you in the next video, where another scandal is waiting to unfold.